Um, because of two reasons. One, I look around and I look at what's happened to the country in the last 18 months with our inflation. Food is up 30%, rents are up, gas is doubled, crime is up, problems in our education. And I felt like I had to do something. But also I looked at, all we seem to have is professional politicians that really don't vote for or represent the people in their district. They vote for their party. They're interested in their next committee assignment. And I looked around and I said, these guys are not representing our district, and what they're doing is causing all the problems in our country. And I thought we need somebody who's not a professional career politician, because we would never do this in a university. We would never do this in business. We would look at the consequences, and these guys don't. They write policies and they never look at what the effect of those policies are. Well, since I'm a pediatric heart surgeon, my greatest accomplishments would all be in medicine. I've done research for 40 years. I've lectured all over the world. I have over 100 papers and book chapters. And I've also started whole programs and whole research labs from scratch, whole units. I started an ECMO unit down at USC in their trauma department. So I know how to, I would say my greatest accomplishments are being able to, I'm a doer, I solve problems, and I can bring people together to solve a complex problem and bring a solution to it. I think they need two things, maybe three. They need somebody who represents them. As I said earlier, Salud Carbajal represents himself. He votes his party every time. Santa Barbara is not like San Francisco, but every vote he votes is the same as San Francisco. So I think the community needs somebody that represents them. I think we need somebody who looks at the consequences of their votes. When you tax and spend like Salud has voted for over and over again and put in regulations, that causes inflation. It is caused by the votes they're taking, but they never look at the complications of what they're doing or the consequences. If I gave you a drug or a medicine as a surgeon, I have to think, is that drug have any consequences, any complications? They don't do that. They just vote for the tax and spend. They come home and they say, we brought you all this money, but they don't tell you that it's going to raise your gas prices, double them, or it's going to cause other problems. And I think the third thing is, by being a problem solver and by being somebody who comes from the real world, the community needs somebody to solve the problems that we have, the high inflation, the increased crime, the education issues, the immigration problems, and all of those things. That I'm not a professional career politician, that I actually have solutions to problems, that's what I do, is solve problems. And I look at the consequences. I know I've said that several times, but I'll give you an example. The Inflation Reduction Act, Salud will come home and tell you the good thing. Oh, it's going to bring down the price of drugs. Let's just talk about healthcare. It's going to bring down the price of your prescription drugs. He doesn't tell you that one of the major reasons drugs are expensive is that government regulations have made them that way. They make making new drugs extremely expensive. In the last 15 years, it's gone up 4 times. The generics, which prices have come down, they didn't do anything to decrease the rates of those. So they didn't solve the problem. But more importantly, are they going to tell you that the University of Chicago study on the effects of what they've done with the drug regulations is going to cost 330 million life years lost? That's 30 times the number of life years lost from COVID. So you may get less expensive drugs, you're going to die sooner. Our longevity is going to go down. They don't look at the consequences. They're just so proud to come back and say to you, oh, we're going to decrease the price of drugs. But they didn't tell you that they could have done it better. They could have done it in ways that they are responsible for, and they didn't tell you the consequences. So I think what I want people to know about me is, having come from the real world and having worked in private practice and the private sector, I will look at it that way. These guys don't. They're professional politicians. All they know how to do is tax, spend, and regulate. I think that we need to, the biggest things we have to do is we have to get back to solving the problems that we have. Inflation is killing people. 64% of people are living paycheck to paycheck. Rents are through the roof. Food prices are up 30%. With the beep, I thought I'd start over. Well, I think the big issues are number one, inflation. We have 64% of people that are living paycheck to paycheck, and it's all due to government policies. Salud voted for lots of taxing and spending, and that's what's caused this. I think we need to. People are now, 64% are living paycheck to paycheck. Gas prices have doubled, rents through the roof, food prices are up 32%. We've got to get back to where people can actually afford things. So I think the first project you want to tackle is inflation, because if that's affecting everybody's life. It's like a thief in the night. It's raising your taxes and stealing your money when you're sleeping. So I think that would be one thing. I want to get back to representing the district, and I want to get back to having citizens there that actually bring real-life experience and solutions to problems instead of a lot of political talking points where they just tell you all the great things, but they never go into all the consequences or problems that they're causing. One of the things that really bothers me is that people don't realize that these are policies that these career politicians voted for. Everything that you're seeing, the increased inflation, did you vote for it? Did you vote for a recession? Did you vote for more crime? Those are, you may have not voted for them, but the policies that Salud voted for have caused these problems. Him and a lot of the career politicians, it's not like they're innocent. They voted for the policies that gave you inflation. They voted for the policies that gave us a recession. They voted for the policies that have increased your rent and done all these and doubled gas prices. They voted for them. They're not innocent. And I think people need to realize that if they keep with politicians that only know how to tax and spend and place regulations, things are never going to change. You need to bring people in that come from the real world and understand the consequences of actions and understand how to solve problems instead of just keep voting for more taxing and spending and think that their policies are not causing the very problems that we're now experiencing. Just that I think, okay, and I've said this before, just that I think we keep electing professional career politicians and we expect things to change. I've asked people this lots of times. If you had a hospital or you had a business, would you bring a politician in to fix it? Most people say no. Well, then why do we put them in charge of our health care, and why do we put them in charge of our government to regulate businesses? We keep sending them there and we expect a different result. They no longer represent us. When they pass things, all they like to do is tell you, oh, I'm bringing this back, I'm bringing that back. First of all, it's your money, and second of all, as I've said before, huge consequences to some of those bills that they tell you they brought back. If they tell you, yeah, we lowered the price of your prescription drugs, but you're not going to live as long, you might not be happy. If they told you that when they give $1 trillion to students to wipe out their loan, that's going to, by increasing the money supply, is going to increase inflation, besides being unfair. And it's other consequences. It's adding to the national debt. So I'm tired of these guys coming, all these professional politicians telling you all the good stuff they do and without looking at the consequences. As I said, it would be like me saying we're going to give you a drug to help with your cancer, but not telling you, by the way, you make it really sick. And they don't. They never look at the consequences because they think that voters are too uninformed and too naive that they don't know the consequences. Therefore, they keep getting away with it. And I think the one thing I would say is, I think it's time we better start sending citizen legislatures and people with real life experience there, because if we don't, we're going to keep getting the same results as we've gotten. We're going to get professionals that keep doing the same thing over and over again.